Should we eliminate the Department of Education? Odds, we should eliminate it. Evens, we shouldn't keep it. 6, we shouldn't keep it. Trump has called for dismantling the education department. Here's what that would mean. Let me give you a little bit of history on the Department of Education. Since the 1970s, believe it was, well, no, I don't know the year. The Department of Education has increased the year-on-year spending on education in the U.S. exponentially, geometrically. Been a sharp increase. Look at the chart. What have we gotten for our money? Are people better educated now than they were? Nope. Not a surprise. But no, we have not gotten any better educated. In some aspects, we've gotten worse. But in general, on average, we have literally stayed exactly the same. We have gotten no benefit for all that extra spending. So if the Department of Education is wasting money, because I can't define any other way in which you would waste money if you are not spending more for getting nothing. It's waste. What do you think? Do you want that money to maybe remain in your pocket? That sounds like it could be a benefit. Maybe it could be spent somewhere else. Maybe you'd like more police. Maybe you'd like police to be better trained. Maybe putting some money into those organizations would give you some benefit. And it does seem that there's some data that would suggest our money would be better spent in those places. So, call for dismantling the education department. Can Trump do it? Probably not without an act of Congress in absolute terms. In absolute terms, by what I mean is eliminating the Department of Education. It ceases to exist. Probably he needs an act of Congress, which he could potentially get. It would depend on how it's worded and so on and so forth, what kind of majorities would be necessary and who would support it. I know that plenty of Republicans have said before they would like to eliminate the Department of Education alongside other departments. So it's possible he could get those votes. Even if he could not eliminate those, he could budget less for them. In terms of enforcing certain things, this is something Obama mentioned. Look, in terms of enforcement of these laws, which is the purview of the executive branch, there are absolutely ways in which you can shuttle money to certain places and take it away from others. How much impact Trump, just president, could have on that is not insignificant, certainly. But in terms of eliminating the department altogether, which I think we should do, he might be in for a little bit of a fight, and certainly the teachers' union is a powerful force in politics. So, President-elect Donald Trump heaps scorn on the Federal Department of Education, describing it as being infiltrated by radicals, zealots, and Marxists. Those are all actually relatively reasonable. The idea that the Department of Education is setting up policy that incentivizes, if not forces, standards of education that conform to DEI, CRT, initiatives is kind of non-debatable. That does seem to be the case. Whether or not you think that's a good thing is debatable, but to say that ideology has in no way, shape, or form shaped the policies of the Department of Education and therefore education in schools is very difficult to argue. And again, even if you like that ideology, the fact of the matter is that the Department of Education should not be a cultural institution. It should not be defining the culture. It should be teaching math, science. It should be creating citizens that are capable of contributing to the society. And it does not seem to be doing any better at that than we were doing before the Department of Education existed. He has picked Linda McMahon, a former wrestling executive, fantastic trolling, to lead the department. But like many conservative politicians before him, Trump has called for dismantling the department altogether, a cumbersome task that likely would require action from Congress. Certainly there is a mandate from the people, and it is a possibility. The agency's main role is financial. Annually, it distributes billions in federal money to colleges and schools and manages the federal student loan portfolio. Federal student loans, not really a great deal. Again, that's kind of setting us up for failure and creating a system in which the student debt crisis is forever a problem. Closing the department would mean redistributing each of those duties to another agency. No, you could actually just eliminate those billions of dollars in federal money to colleges and schools and have them fund themselves, as most private schools do. The Education Department also plays an important regulatory role in services for students ranging from those with disabilities to low-income and homeless kids. This is, in fact, I would say the chief role of the Department of Education, in that they are making rules as to how things can be taught, how things should be taught, the tests that need to be taken, the standards that need to be made, and denying money and allowing it based on these arbitrary criteria that in many aspects, because it's potentially thousands of miles away from you and your students and their realities, the regulations and the ideas that they're putting forth might not in any way, shape, or form mesh with those kids. So taking it away from a far removed federal agency and putting it more in the hands of local people seems like a good idea to me. And it's not as if parents don't want their children to be well educated. It's not as if they're not willing to spend the money. This is ostensibly something that people love to spend money on. You can look at all kinds of countries around the world. The one thing parents are willing to, go into debt over is education for their kids, because it's a good investment if that education is good. Indeed, federal education money is essential to Trump's plan for colleges and schools. Trump has vowed to cut off federal money for schools and colleges that push critical race theory, transgender insanity, and other inappropriate racial, sexual, or political content, and to reward states and schools that end teacher tenure and enact universal school choice programs. These are both things that I agree with. Teacher tenure at the anywhere below high school level, or I should say below college level, is completely foolish. There's no point. The reason you have tenure at universities is you had a lot of radical teachers at universities, and they wanted to be able to push the boundaries of things that they could research while maintaining their jobs. To be honest, I don't know if it should be eliminated, but again, I think that would be something that could be easily decided by a institution. Do you think Harvard University is going to be really pressed to not have a tenure program? They could easily do it. And whether any short-term financial loss of, we missed a little bit of it. They have a huge endowment. They'll never run out of money. They can absolutely afford a tenure program. Your local middle school, does it make sense for those teachers to have tenure, to never be able to be fired? No, it does not. Universal school choice programs, absolutely. If you're going to be giving money to these schools from federal dollars, have it go with the kids. Have the money be attached to the children, and those children can go to whatever school best fits their goals as students and their parents' goals as parents of students. Federal funding makes up a relatively small portion of public school budgets, roughly 14%. That's not really that small, but and again, it doesn't matter if it's small. Is any school going to give away money? They're going to go, no, we don't need that. Of course they're going to do it. Colleges and universities are more reliant on it. Through research grants, along with federal financial aid that helps students pay their tuition. And again, should everybody be going to college? Does everybody need a university education? This is the idea for why these colleges are so expensive now. They're so universal, and a bachelor's degree gets you nothing. If you want an actual leg up from an education, you have to go all the way to a master's degree. And generally speaking, even a master's degree is going to give you very little value for money, especially when you compare it with the amount of money you could be making working a job for those 4 years or 8 years, getting experience on that job. You're actually going to probably, earn just as much, if not more money. The Education Department manages approximately $1.5 trillion in student loan debt for over 40 million borrowers. It also oversees the Pell Grant, which provides aid to students below a certain income threshold, and administers the Free Application for Federal Student Aid, FAFSA, which universities use to allocate financial aid. Really, let's be totally clear here, the financial aid FAFSA stuff is just this is how you get into college without actually paying for it. The universities get money no matter what. You're saddled with debt for the rest of your life unless you go into a field in which you're going to be able to recoup that money. The universities suffer no problems from giving out degrees that are worthless or having their kids fail. Literally makes no difference to them. They've already got their money because of the FAFSA, because the government's paying them just to take kids in. The Biden administration has made cancellation of student loans a signature effort of the department's work. Since Biden's initial attempt to cancel student loans was overturned by the Supreme Court, the administration has forgiven over $175 billion for more than 4.8 million borrowers through a range of changes to programs it administers, such as public service loan forgiveness. The loan forgiveness efforts have faced Republican pushback, including litigation from several GOP-led states. Trump has criticized Biden's effort to cancel debt as illegal and unfair. Well, it does seem like it was illegal if it was overturned by the Supreme Court. And unfair, I don't really think you can argue that. It's unfair for people that paid their debt back and other people are getting a pass on it. That does seem unfair. And even if you agree with it, it does seem unfair. It's a total catastrophe that taunted young people. Trump's plan for student debt is uncertain. He has not put out detailed plans. My take take on the student loan debt forgiveness is that it's never going to happen. Not in any real sense, because it's just not. I don't see any legal way that it could happen. I really don't. It's unfortunate, but it does seem to be the case. Civil rights enforcement. Through its Office for Civil Rights, the Education Department conducts investigations and issues guidance on how civil rights laws should be applied, such as for LGBTQ+ students and students of color. The office also oversees a large data collection project that tracks disparities in resources, course access, and discipline for students of different racial and socioeconomic groups. Trump has suggested a different interpretation of the office's civil rights role. In his campaign platform, he said he would pursue civil rights cases to stop schools from discriminating on the basis of race, which they have been proven to do. As in, if you're Asian, you're not getting in to certain colleges. Sorry, that's discrimination on the basis of race, and they do it, as opposed to, freeing up people. He has described diversity and equity policies in education as explicit unlawful discrimination. True. And said colleges that use them will pay fines and have their endowments taxed. I don't have a huge problem with that. I think, again, opening it up, letting anybody compete, and having race not be an issue is probably the better plan. Trump has also pledged to exclude transgender students from the Title IX protections, which affect school policies on students' use of pronouns, bathrooms, and locker rooms. Originally passed in 1972, Title IX was first used as a women's right law. This year, Biden's administration says the law forbids discrimination based on gender identity and sexual orientation, but Trump can undo that. I don't know if that's true. I mean, I guess Trump can undo the Biden administration saying that this is the case. It doesn't actually mean that that's the way that the law works. If that's what they're saying it does, okay, fine, but that doesn't mean that that's how it actually works. Whatever. College accreditation. While the Education Department does not directly accredit colleges and universities, it oversees the system by reviewing all federally recognized accrediting agencies. Institutions of higher education must be accredited to gain access to federal money for student financial aid. This is very interesting because the majority of this article, this whole passage here for the majority, and I will also say this one. So, half of the article is mainly focusing on colleges, universities. Generally speaking, the Department of Education and the people that are critical of it have a lot more to say about K through 12, kindergarten, primary school, middle school, high school, the standard that everyone has to go through, and the failings of that specific aspect of education, which is to say, if you get to read at a 12th grade level in high school, great, you succeeded. Are people getting that on average? Are those scores going up? Are people able to do the math they need to get through daily life? Do they have the reading proficiency necessary to get through their day-to-day? This is kind of the more important aspect of education. The college, higher education type thing is not necessary. So we really shouldn't be focusing on that in our analysis of whether or not the Department of Education should exist. Accreditation. whatever. Money for schools. Much of the education department's money for K through 12 schools go through large federal programs, such as Title I for low-income schools and the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. Those programs support services for students with disabilities, lower class sizes with additional teaching positions, and pay for social workers and other non-teaching roles in schools. It's interesting that they put this last, other non-teaching roles in schools. That is the vast majority of where the money paid out by the Department of Education and just in general spending on education goes. Non-teaching roles, administrators. This is where the majority of your money is going. Not to teachers, not to lower class sizes, not to these types of things. It's going to administrators that are obviously not educating, they are administrating. During his campaign, Trump called for shifting those functions to the states. He has not offered details on how the agency's core functions of sending federal money to local districts and schools will be handled. I think his call for universal school choice is a pretty good indicator of the idea of, a voucher system, how the agency's core functions of sending federal money to local districts and schools will be handled. Probably some form of universal voucher system, in which every student is handed $40,000, whatever, a year, something like that. And then that $40,000 goes to whatever school that student chooses to go to. The Heritage Foundation's Project 2025, a sweeping proposal outlining a far-right vision for the country that overlaps in areas with Trump's campaign, offers a blueprint. It suggests sending oversight of programs for kids with disabilities and low-income children first to the Department of Health and Human Services, before eventually phasing out the funding and converting it to no-strings-attached grants to states. Now, I believe Trump has said ad nauseum that he's not involved with Project 2025 and doesn't have any plans to follow it. It's just a proposal from some group that the media grabbed onto. And the fact that you're ending your article with this is so wildly, fantastically disingenuous that you're trying to fearmonger that the evil Project 2025 is going to do horrible, far-right, monstrous things. Good luck in all your endeavors. Thank you for your time and attention. Let me know in the comments if you prefer these soft-spoken or whispery ASMR politics and news videos. I shall say farewell for now.